Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey. And tonight I'm going to get into the topic on Japanese whiskey and its authenticity, aka the imposters. So one of the first topics that I want to get into is this distillery here, the Matsui Kurayoshi Distillery, and of course a lot of the controversial stuff on it, which I mentioned in my previous review. This is the 43, I did the one on the 46, and it stemmed from a few of the reviews that I was reading on it, and a lot of them sort of point toward Whiskey Richard, who's been studying the cocktail scene. That's how he describes it, studying and exploring the cocktail scene in Tokyo. I believe he is a Shoshu sommelier, as well as whiskey Kantai level 3. He's well qualified whiskey professor, whatever there. But anyways, his comments are what got me going. And there is an article. I'll mention the article. I'll write down the website, etc. on the review. But anyways, this kind of brought out a lot of question marks about this particular distillery, but really about Japanese whiskey in general. And I'm not trying to, focus specifically on this distillery, or they've already got notoriety, and I don't think that some of it is deserved. But anyways, what we're focused on more is the sketchy Japanese laws. And I read stories of whiskeys coming in from Europe, even Canada here, that were sold as Japanese whiskey. One in particular, I think it was an 18-year-old. They're making a fortune on these because of the high price of Japanese whiskey. But anyways, these sketchy, they're not even laws. That's the problem. And the Japanese, the Japan Liquors and Spirits Makers Association, which is really the larger group of distilleries in Japan, and it's an agreement, and they did some changes. And if you're not a member, I guess you don't have to follow suit. But what it means is that whiskey basically is going to follow a lot of the same laws that you're going to see in Scotland. That it has to be distilled in Japan, that it has to be a minimum of 40%, and also that the aging has to be done also in Japan. Basically similar rules to what you're going to see in Scotland. One of the interesting things is that when I was beating up the Kurayoshi, I guess it wasn't that brutal to it, but the 46 ABV, because this is the 43. Basically what I assumed that there was no or not a lot of Japanese whiskey in that blend. It was mostly Scottish whiskey. So I've done a lot of research since then. Now the 46 was one of the earlier 12-year-olds, and the 43 kind of followed. And the 43 is definitely got some different things that are going on as to the research I've done. And I've gone to several sites, and of course Matsui basically claims that it is Japanese whiskey, it's 12 years old, and they are sourcing other distilleries to be able to blend that whiskey. Now we know the distillery got its license in 2015, and it actually started producing whiskey in 2017 with its two new, I think they were 3,500, 5,000 liter stills. Basically new at the game, but they were an old company. They go back to 1910. They were a sake brewery. So this company does have some history, and it probably has some connections with other distilleries in Japan. So what we're seeing is this whiskey here, the 43 ABV, is supposed to have whiskey sourced out in Japan, and so these are single malts that are blended. So that is the information I've got. There is a lot of mixed information out there. It's very difficult to get a solid source of information. I'm going with that. I'm not criticizing Whiskey Richard because his dates back to 2018, and with the 46, his concern was what we call the fake distillery or phantom distillery issue. In other words, distilleries that didn't have stills to distill whiskey were selling whiskey that was called Japanese whiskey from the distillery, in this case Kurayoshi. But they do have stills, and they did back then, but the stills they had back then were small stills, and they were the stills they were using for producing their plum liqueurs and also their gins, etc., etc. So you can look at that other video if you want, and you can basically you make your own decisions on that. So if you want to read his article, it's Whiskey Richard, but it's called Namunication JP is the name of the site. So Namunication, just look it up. Read what Whiskey Richard has to say. Okay, it's quite well put together, and I want to get into this. I was going to try to get through this fairly fast. For the difference between this guy here and the 46, we don't know yet. We're going to find out. So here is the 46. I poured the 46. We're going to pour the 43. I've had the 43 for a while. I did get the 46 before I had the 43, but I bought the 43 shortly after when it came up. Two different liquor stores. Let's get into the 12-year-old Kurayoshi 43 ABV. Non-chill filtered, no color added. Okay, the nose. Apples, pears. I've got a little bit of citrus stuff going on. Little orange, some cinnamon. Got some fragrance going on. Our flower garden fragrance, maybe roses, and with the citrus notes, I'm going to say orange. We've got even a wee bit of baking spices, and I'm smelling some cereal, oaty cereal, oats like Cheerios. Okay, I told you this is going to be a little fast. I have a tendency to ramble on. We're going to try to cut our time a little bit here. Here is the palate. Slàinte. It's got a beautiful apple, pear, apricot presentation right off the bat, which reminds me of a Speyside. A Speyside presentation. Little bit of cinnamon on my tongue. I'd say even nutmeg. A little bit of nutmeg, and now I'm getting even a little bit of white pepper. Chocolate and dark orange chocolate. Some coffee notes. Very slight tobacco in the background. And it's staying on my tongue for a 43. It got a little coating in the mouth. It's not a real light 43, but it does taste Japanese. I mean, this is reminiscent of my Nikas. And I am now going to go for the development and the finish. Slàinte. So we've got a little bit more of a bite there. In other words, when I say bite, more body. The malt is coming through, and I'm going to say like a ginger, cinnamon, pear, apricot, but maybe some plums going on now. We're getting some biscuit. And the finish For 43, medium. Not bad. A pretty good finish, actually. So I'm going to go right on to the water. With water. The nose. 40. Well, we've got some fragrant floral stuff going on here, and some honey. It's a sweet honey, but it's got some, it's like an alfalfa honey. And there's some savory notes. Okay, the palate with water, Slàinte. Really brought out the sweetness. And very chocolatey, fudgy, toffee, vanilla. And of course those spices, the cinnamon's still there, but I'm getting licorice now. It's almost like a charred barrel influence. So a sweeter black licorice, and with that slight bit of tobacco in the background. So a decent finish on this, and with water it really brought things out. For 43, I'm actually quite impressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now I want to do the sort of compare the two, but we're going to have to add water to this. So I'm going to clean my palate first, because I've added water to the 43, and we certainly are going to have to add water to the 46. I'm done. So we're going to go now to the 46, the Kurayoshi 12-year-old 46 with water, the nose. Now it could be what I'm smelling right now. It's like a cask smell, like a sherry influenced cask, and it still smells very Scotch. It's almost like worm tub whiskey, like something like a Craggamore. It's the worm tubs. So I really believe there is some Scotch single malt whiskey in here. But we'll go for the palate. The palate with water. Sweet. And spicy. Similar spice, but different. I feel like this is a different whiskey than that. It's not. This whiskey is not this cut down in ABV. This is a different whiskey. The 43 is different than the 46. So raisins, dates, pepper, nutmeg, ginger, and maybe on a honey note, I'd say more of the Manuka honey. You know, I did a review on this, so I'm not going to get really deep into this. I just feel the two of these whiskeys are different. I believe the 46 ABV is different than the 43. If you've had both, if you had a chance to try both, send me a note. I'm just curious what you think. So I'm going to say that the 43 is a little bit more Japanese. I'm going to say the 46 is a little bit more with the Scotch influence, the single malt influence there from Scotland. So I mean, they are blending them. They did a good job on it though. It is a nice whiskey. I do like the 43. Well, this has been an interesting, if not a difficult, review. Trying to get some solid information on this distillery, on this whiskey. Just the more I researched the actual distillery, the Matsu Shozo, as well as the Kurayoshi Distillery, it seems the more contradictory information I was getting, and other sites as well. When I first started studying this, I was pretty much aware that there was no or very little Japanese whiskey in the 46. The 43 I was a little more optimistic, and that it was sourced out of Japan. And then after further reading, I got some conflicting information. So basically, we're almost back at the beginning here. Like I say, I've gone down a rabbit hole. It's hard to get back out of it. So if you've got any new research information, or some knowledge that I do not have on this distillery, please let me know. Any comments I would certainly appreciate. And if you enjoyed the review, please give us a like. So on that note, I'm going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, and do not drink and drive. And until the next time, so long.